I'm Barbara Tien with Projectkin, and joining me today is none other than Kathy Stone, as we like to say, the cornerstone of Projectkin. Shh, quietly, Jane is still in her pajamas. Nobody needs to know what happens down here anyway.
The bunny slippers.
The bunny slippers. Oh, it's funny you mentioned bunny slippers because that is my news today. In a post I just dropped this morning, which I schedule, you may have noticed, I schedule my posts now for 8 a.m. GMT, which is midnight Pacific time, so I catch the clock as it goes around the planet. I dropped a post I'm thinking of as the Roots Tech Ride Along announcement. Here we are in 2026, the first quarter of the year, always time to start thinking about Roots Tech. And Roots Tech this year is on the first weekend in March. And golly, we had such a good old time last year. We're going to do it again. I'm not going here from California, but I do happen to have some good buddies who will be there on site. And many of you have already chimed in. I'm delighted to see it right here in our audience with folks like Jennifer and Bill offhand. I know you were in our ride along last year as speakers. Kathy, were you there as well?
I was. I think. Yes. I think Maureen and I had a lovely discussion.
Oh, that's
On
right.
Roots
That
Tech
was a
Ride
fun
Along
one.
between ourselves. Yes.
Well, exactly. And last year, okay, she's taking matters into her own hands. My selfie cam was not enough to entertain her. The the uh this year, as you may have seen my Skybridges announcement, I realized that the ride along last year, Substack Live was new. This year, it's time to recognize that it doesn't, while we're happy here on Substack, it's not all happening on Substack. And so many of you, hello again, Linda Stufflebean, so many of you have fantastic established communities in your own WordPress and Blogger and every other form of long form publications out there, properties out there on the web. Why not create ways to do live events everywhere? We can do that certainly between Zoom and Substack. We can live stream and have things go straight out to YouTube. So, hey, I'm open to it. So that's basically the key of this very long, I don't know, 3,000 word post or whatever it turned out to be. I go on sometimes. Sorry about that. But I'm trying to get it all in there to basically say, got an idea? Come talk to me. Let's do it and find a way to do it. So, yeah, exactly, Jennifer. The Roots Tech excitement is coming. And one of the fun things about new years, I mean, the clock doesn't really have to go all the way around and start up again new. But all the way around the world, cultures everywhere, every how have recognized the cycle of seasons, whatever those seasons might be, and how important it is. Good morning, Jude, or good evening, Jude. And it's time to refresh, look at things again, wonder what you're doing. And here we are with the very first Kathy's Corner of the year that comes in on Thursday in our Pacific time window, for those of you who keep track of what all this craziness is of time zones and how we do things around here. And joining me today, of course, is Kathy Stone. And Kathy, you have some special plans for 2026 and a new approach starting with this week's Kathy's Corner. So tell us about it.
Yes, I do, Barbara, because we've talked a lot, Barbara, and I've talked with other people about how do we keep going with Kathy's Corner? We started off, I think, 3 years ago, talking about basically sharing my background and knowledge as a photo manager with the 8 steps and structure into how to get all your photos and memorabilia and all that stuff organized. And so we've talked about, do we do them over again? They're all recorded for posterity. And if you already attended them all, you could just go back and watch them. Would you still want to come and hear more of the same? Or can we dive a little deeper into parts of it? And so I think that's kind of what the approach we started. We thought there's not a lot of point in repeating and doing the exact. I could do them endlessly, but that's kind of not very exciting for you and definitely not that exciting for me. So we thought, well, what could we do this year? So we've managed to take our fresh start for the new year, and we've planned a few sessions so far. We're going to keep working on that, but we're going to start off a totally different style of Kathy's Corner for January. I posted a blog on which I'm sure Barb will put in the notes, called "Goals, Quests, and Getting Stuff Done." And I was looking at everything. And again, I know Barbara and I were talking about there's a lot going on in the world right now. And particularly in the US, there's a lot going on, and it's hard to focus on, oh, let me set some New Year's resolutions and all those things. It's a little hard to tune out all the noise going on. And it's everywhere. It's not just like, it's affecting everywhere. And things are, we just had since December 30th, we just had to have water rationing in the middle of winter because we had a massive water main break in a main pipe from this is the second one. We had one 2 years ago too, because all of the infrastructure is old and we spend a lot of money on new things, but we haven't been tending to that. So there's so much going on. I'm just enjoying. I did, well, I should lie. My husband did 7 loads of laundry yesterday that we have saved up to help do our part of water saving. So I digress though. So there's so much going on. There's so much going on in life. And I sat down because I was starting to see some of the circles I travel in are, I'll be honest, they're direct sales models. They're not really direct sales, but they're similar to that. And so we have people who tell us it's the beginning of the year, you should set your goals for the year. And everybody's posting, this is my word of the year. And I'm like, I don't even know what my word of the year is anymore. Like, I had a word of the year. I don't even remember what it was last year, unless I didn't set one at all. And I thought, man, I've been setting goals and like the SMART goal system for many, many years. And I started off with somebody setting goals for me when I was first employed. And I'll ramble on a bit. I was my first job post university was as a customs inspector for Canadian Customs. And so in that job, supervisors set my goals. I didn't get any input into them. This is what I was supposed to do and everything. And then I moved up in the food chain and became a supervisor and had to not only do my goals, but I set goals for other people that were always specific, the whole SMART thing. Yeah, there. And then at the end of the year, we'd review them and go, you met this, you didn't meet this, you have to improve. And because we were federal government public servants, things like bonuses did not enter the picture. Like it had no effect on anything other than good for you if you wanted a higher level job. It was good to have good reviews, not bad ones. So then I moved on. I don't know if Mark even knows this. I moved on still with the Department of Canada Customs. I moved to our training center and started doing course design. And so I did a lot of writing learning objectives, which are kind of like goals for courses, and continued on in the rest. So I've done this for a while. Then I came back to Calgary as the manager of training when we implemented our federal sales tax in 1990s. And I back to setting goals. I had to set goals for my whole unit. I had to set goals. And so I've done a bit of it. And then I carried on with it. And now I've got these, I should set my goals for how much sales I should have and everything. I thought, well, I'm getting to set those goals if you're telling me I should set goals for new clients and I should set goals for this and that. I'm really having a lot of input into that. So I thought, goals don't work for Kathy anymore because life intervenes with SMART goals. I'm talking about the formal goal setting structures. I thought, I wonder if anybody else feels this way. And this is partly written in my article too. So lo and behold, quite a few other people have written about how goals don't work anymore. So what I want to do in January is have a working session where we figure out what we need to do going forward. My goal for last year was to digitize and organize all my digital pictures, all my print, which are now all digital. Guess what? I didn't meet that goal because of life. Because was it realistic? Seemed like it at the time, but it turned out not to be. So I uncovered, which I wrote in there, about quests. And then Jane or Jennifer? Jennifer Jones wrote an article on Blueprint for the Year. And I loved it. It was a similar concept about let's get away from these overwhelming goals and figure out what we want to do. So that's what I want to do on Thursday is to help you if you haven't set your goals. If you've got a great way of doing it and you want to come and share it with us, we'd love it. But I'm looking at some things and we'll look at them as like, I thought a long time ago, I used to do mind mapping. That was a big training thing in the 90s and
Yeah,
early
90s.
2000s, I guess. The 90s. Yeah, it would be the 90s. Yeah. And so I thought, geez, maybe I'll go back and look at that and see if I can hi, Anne, set up my plan for the year, because you do have to have some idea what you're doing. Like that, there has to be a base at some point. But just to get away from too much structure and what I found is that life intervenes a lot. And I think with everybody, more on as we get older too, that there's health things intervene and stuff intervenes that
Loved ones.
then
Yeah.
you beat yourself up because you didn't meet your goal. And I've had ingrained in my head a long time ago that those were excuses. They weren't legitimate. And now I'm like, yeah, they are. They're not
Yeah,
an
yeah.
excuse. They're real. They're reality. And all things can happen.
Explanations.
If you
Yeah.
have to go to another country and look after your aging parents, if you have to do you've got to relocate your parents. There's all sorts of things that happen
Your
to us in life
priorities take
that
over. That's
exactly that are legitimate reasons why we don't accomplish those big goals. So I thought, well, let's just look at this as let's make a plan of what we want to get done, and we're going to tie it back into, because we're Projectkin, the whole idea where that name came from of what
ooh,
projects will lead me to
yeah,
accomplish my quest. And so that's
right.
what we're going to do. And we'll talk about, it's going to be a working session. We'll talk about methods but I'm not going to talk a lot. I might give you maybe some thoughts and questions or someone might throw out and say, hey, this is a great question that I've used to figure out what my plan is for the year, or my, whatever we want to call it, my goal, my quest, my big picture, and just try and help each other out and get something down on paper for the month of January to carry us forward through the year.
Yeah, yeah. I just love this notion of a quest. And honestly, I sometimes, well, okay, I know I use too many emojis and things. I just did right there. But to me, it's a dragon. And when you think about, I used to have a boss that was legendary in Silicon Valley she was a head of technology at a telecom company, and was famous for leaving strapping young men running, crying from her office for having been dressed down. So that kind of thing. And she would say, go get this done and don't take no for an answer. Talk about a quest, right?
Yeah. And talk about involvement in what you're doing. Yeah.
That whole set of different issues. But the notion of when to, that gave me a superpower of not taking no for an answer and finding ways to say, okay, well, if not that, then how about this? Which, by the way,
Mhm.
is wonderful when talking to the telephone company or other bureaucrats that you need to get through. It is indeed a superpower. But on the other hand, in real life, there are priorities that kick in, and they are not obstacles. They are priorities that step in and balancing. And when you look at the important things in life that are coming anyway, you find ways to meet your objectives, to do the thing that you wanted to
Mm.
do. I had a couple of weddings. There are things that you do that you want
Mhm.
to do, and you will find ways to do them if it means rearranging other priorities because they just
Yeah.
don't rank.
Yeah.
It's
And I think
beautiful. And
allowing yourself permission to
yeah,
have that flexibility to change course, go in a
yeah,
different direction. What can I do around this? I think what's really important in what we set with our goals and plans, and not ending up having them beating ourselves up because we didn't
yeah,
get them done. And I think I've shifted my thinking. Like I was originally told, those things were um, they were back doors, they were escape hatches that we were
right,
making up in our own
right,
mind. And I'm like,
right.
actually, it's reality. It's life. Like,
It's one thing when you're 12 and you're explaining why you didn't get your homework done. My
yeah.
dog ate my homework. Oh, well. But in real life, you can't there are some loved ones you're not don't want to disappoint. There
Yeah.
are some things that you will find a way to still accomplish the goal, which was
Yeah.
conveying the
And
love to
things
be
that
there
you
with who's
cannot
important.
control, and
Yeah.
that's the hardest thing. I don't know anyone knows. I've lived with a chronic illness for 25 years now, going on 26 years since it actually pretty close to 26 since it first started, and it's up and down. It has a mind of its own, and really, and I've been told all diets, medication. I'm really lucky that I have medication that works usually, but as the time progresses, more things pop up, and I've given up thinking that I can just plan ahead and pretend that that's not a factor, that I can set concrete deadlines and expect that, oh, yeah, that's fine. Nothing's going to happen in between. And so I've learned a lot from that. It's taken 25 years, but I've learned quite a bit about that. And looking at what you accomplished instead of what you didn't, I think is another
Yeah.
key thing. Like, what did I get done? Like, I look around on the topic of digitization, and right now I'll take a picture of it to show on Thursday. I have a stack of boxes of my digitization that's been returned. That is all the photos and the slides and everything else is all in this big pile of boxes that I need to open and put away. I have a cupboard full behind me of all these boxes, but it's I look at that and go, "Oh, man, ton of work." But then I can also look at it and go, "You know what? All that whole pile of pictures that used to be unprotected in boxes on the floor are now all digital, all preserved, and much easier now to work with." And so it's looking at it and going like, not like what I didn't get done, but what did I
Mhm.
get done? And then it's like, wow,
Yeah,
I really got a lot done in the last couple of years on that
that's
project.
right. That's right. And sometimes, at least I have found that it's okay to adjust what you thought were the really important the checkbox. What
Mhm.
was the checkbox that you needed to do? Um, with colleagues in the past, I have been accused of just moving forward because I got things to do. Mom needs a project. We'll come back to that. I'll just go through so that I can say that I did it. I like to think the enlightened view of that is not that the goal of the goal is not to have boxes checked. The goal is to focus on the priorities. And if in the effort for the priorities you have defined a project, then focus
Mhm.
on that. Focus on the spirit behind the project, not necessarily the box that needs to be checked.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about project?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's interesting you bring that up because, again, welcome, Anne. Anne Larkham, who just popped through, was very active with with not only Projectkin but Ponga, my startup, my last startup, and then when we're shutting the business down, and I formed a little, I don't know, a web page called Post Ponga. We'll figure it out. Anne was right there with me. And then, I don't know, it was like 6 months, 3 months later, someone in the crowd said, what is this Ponga thing you keep talking about? And I'm like, oops, we did something new. We're something else. So we don't know what that something is. I need a name. And in casting about for a name, it was Anne, I won't forget this Anne, who stepped up and said, Barb, you keep talking about projects. I don't know why. That's just a word you use a lot. Maybe there's something in there. And that, of course, became the kernel that became the name of Projectkin. And frankly, I feel a little bit like a pair of shoes we've slowly grown into. Um, because I didn't know it at the time. I can't claim that I did. Hello and welcome, welcome, welcome. So many of you. It's delightful to see so many names flying by. I'm trying not to interrupt the conversation here. Um, but the idea of a project, in my view, what makes it so important right now is a phrase I remember listening to as Ponga. In fact, when people would say, "Well, I want to get I want to get the story of my family written. That's my goal." From where I sit today, that's just crazy talk. Because yeah, and what do you mean? I mean, anything could be scaled to any size. But really defining that down, the process of turning
Mhm.
something into something that can be accomplished, actually accomplished. is defining it into a project. And in fact, the story of my family, as I think all of us assembled here know, is really an ongoing effort, not just for you, but really for you and your descendants as it was for your ancestors in passing down what you've learned and passed down. I'm going to need to read that carefully, Linda. Um,
Mhm.
and in defining those, I tend to think like a brick road. Each little project is like another brick in that road that's taking you forward. And you're pulling together from, maybe you're pulling the bricks up from before and putting them down with what you've learned to be just a little bit more. But each of these steps are going through. I see so much text flying by. I'm going to have to pause to read that here. So let me start with this one. Linda Stufflebean chimes in. Blogger Jackie Stevens of A Family Tapestry started 12 for XXX, or whatever the year being. And so 12 for 2026, for example. She chooses one person or family on her tree and spends 1 month working on only that one item. The concept can then be
Mhm.
expanded to one project, digitizing, or anything else. In other words, focus. Focus. And focus is so hard for everybody to find.
Well, and
Yes, ADHD.
particularly
Yes, the easy distractions. But yes, focus
when
is
we're
so
talking
hard.
about our family history, like,
Yeah.
can you mention in anything I've ever done, I have never seen this many rabbit holes in my life. And they're fun. Like, a lot of times you go down a rabbit hole and it's just like, oh, well, that was just a massive waste of my time. But the rabbit holes in this field are just like, wow, is this ever cool? So that makes it even harder, but
Well,
to
yeah. In
without a
a
plan.
world of in a warren of rabbit holes, how do you just pick one? If you know the one next to you was really much more interesting. And uh yeah, I think the answer is you can't know. And I think part of the answer is in valuing focus, not because your teacher said so, but because it's a way to honor your original objectives, original
Mhm,
focus. And I can only manage what I do by creating lots of parking places.
mhm.
I
Yeah.
have so many crazy ideas. I have a crazy idea parking place.
Mm,
And the other problem is I keep inventing new parking places like, oh, I got one. I got one right here. Oh, wait. And then every now and then I have to stop and go and do that. I could never go through 12, a planning process to define 12, one for each month of the year, and then just keep going. And that's just me because I wouldn't give myself the permission. I wouldn't be good enough to myself to do that. Jane Chapman chimes in. You have to give yourself permission to
mhm,
deviate from the plan when circumstances require it.
mhm.
Absolutely. Wow, these are fabulous bits, not just of advice on this is therapy.
Yes. And
And in
also,
many ways,
I
life
mentioned
is
it.
therapy, isn't it?
Yes. I mentioned at the beginning too that Barbara and I had actually planned a couple sessions. So I'll give you a little sneak peek into what's coming up too. In February, it's called Postcards Part 2. In December, we did a wonderful session without me talking, but a whole bunch of special guests who came and told stories about the postcards in their collection. But we didn't talk much about the archiving, the stuff that I get to talk about, the technical stuff. We heard all the great stories, but a lot of questions came up about, well, there's all sorts of kinds of postcards and what do we do? How do we
Postcards
archive
aren't
them?
acid free.
Yeah, they're a big area of stuff there. So in um, February, Jane Chapman is going to join me and talk a little bit about her treasure box. No, sorry, not February, March. Yes, March.
She has a
And
vacation coming up.
yes, February, we're going to talk about postcards. March, we're going to talk about the roadmap for creating a treasure box. And Jane is going to join us there. And if I've told you the wrong dates, I'll figure that out what we were doing. Um,
And
I've been
I will
buried in technology all week, so that fries my brain. So February, we'll talk about postcards part 2, the archiving, the storing, other details about, determining ages of postcards. There's all sort of that background. And then in March, we're going to talk about a project, the roadmap for, I said February to Jade. Yes, that's my problem, Jane. Sometimes I will check it all out and get you on the right track. But I think the plan is for Jane is to come in March, according to my notes from Barbara. So
don't trust me. We'll work this out. We'll stay tuned for the schedule.
We'll sort it out. I have a good treatment going on for some issues right now, but if you've ever taken corticosteroids, you don't sleep very well the first couple of days. So I'm operating on a lot of sleep right now. And then we are going to talk about the project. And at some point in there, I think Barbara's going to do another project festival at some point where we talk about projects we've done. And then we will talk about, I think in April, we were going to talk about setting up projects and how to set the gory details of what you need to do to get a project done. So that's coming up.
Let me fill in again. Trust us to make sure we've got the dates right with our speakers. So that's always important.
Yes.
But the concept behind all of this comes back again to the idea of defining the thing and then going after the thing and how you plan that process. We also recognize from last year's event that the subtleties of dealing specifically with artifacts like postcards requires some careful thought because, just like I think all of us have learned, you don't take white glue and smear it on the back of your photos and slap it on a piece of let's say, construction paper while we're messing with acid. But really thinking through the practical aspects of managing these special artifacts. But the project and how a particular project was done, and Jane's project relates to a series of posts that she has done that I'll include in the notes here, where she referred to the treasure box of postcards that have been passed down to her. So I'll include the link to that post so you can watch that post, and you'll see why it was such an extraordinary idea. I love these projects that were invented intentionally or otherwise by our ancestors. We receive them with the lens of the technology and the capabilities that we have. And now we get to pass them even further, which I also love because it speaks to a foundational point, in my view, about family history storytelling. And that is, you're not telling the story of your family because who are you? You're just in this little notion of this little moment in time, this little tiny snapshot of your 90 years or whatever it is. And time will happened before you, and time will happen after you. You are putting down your brick. You are telling your piece of the story with what you have learned. And maybe if you do things right, what you do will be read by those who follow. And if you're lucky and do things right, what you write will be helpful and beneficial to future generations. It's a pretty simple goal. And when we look at things that way, then breaking things down into projects that can make a difference and be creative about it. Being creative about it, to my view, means not being hemmed in by what you were told, which is what I'm good at. Which made me a terrible student. Maybe this is my deep revenge for all of those bosses and teachers that made me do things I didn't want to do. I was a baby.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah.
We get to be the boss of that.
To do what you want now.
Actually, I got to be careful. I think this is going to go up on LinkedIn. I wouldn't be telling any past bosses anything they didn't already know. Anywho, here we are at the end of the day. The big boss of everything is time. Both the time that we have right now, the time that you have between now and 30 minutes after the hour, and the time that we have to do what we can with what we've got. And I want to thank you so very much, all of you. Today has been really delightful, and all of you participating and joining in this conversation. forgive me for not being able to respond enough to all of the comments in here coming in and how we are sharing these notions. Please do jump in to the comments of this post. I do try to get them out as quickly as I can as an update to the notes within a couple of hours after the conclusion of the programs. But sometimes, how did we put it? Life and technology gets in the way. You know, each of these, they become their own quest to solve, but that's okay. We'll get there from here. The video will circulate immediately with kind of nothing in it, and then I run alongside afterwards and drop my updates in. So you're always welcome to get out there and refresh, because it's the brilliant of HTML, right? You know, it's a protocol, it's a pointer, you just refresh and it's different because it's how it works. Again, many thanks to everyone who joined, especially to you, Kathy. It's these are always such fun. And you know, we started it. We're not going to stop. It's going to be great fun to do these during Roots Tech and having all of you sharing what you think, where you've seen, and where exactly. Thank you, Bill. Where we're going for the whole year. It's I think a creative collaboration we're all doing together, and that's kind of the point of that fancy word, community, because we're making it up. That's what we're doing. We're making it up. Didn't exist. We got no mayors. We got no curbsides. We have no trash pickup. We're just making this stuff up online, and we'll
As we
find
go.
out how it
Yes.
works. Exactly. Big hugs, big kisses to
Bye,
everybody. Thank you
everyone.
so much. Take care now.
Happy New Year.
My cat's asleep now. We bored her. Bye-bye now.